Rather, Tata has gone and put everything in its EV basket. There are no petrol engines or diesel engines like Mahindra has got.
There is all this rumors of Mahindra looking at buying a stake in Volkswagen's Indian operations.
Ford really needed Mahindra more than Mahindra needed Ford.
There was talk of Mahindra buying Aston Martin. Was there any substance to that? Welcome to the Evo India podcast. Now, this week's episode is a follow-on from last week where we talked about all of Mahindra's products leading up to the Thar DI and the Thar CRD. In the studio with us, we have with us Adil Darukhanawala, author of Timeless Mahindra, the A to Z of everything you want to know about Mahindra. Adil, thank you for being with us once again.
What do we talk about?
So,
Thar and rocket with it.
So let's start with the 2020 Thar. Where we left off last week, we talked about the earlier generation Thar, how it was created. It was a parts bin special. People at Mahindra didn't want to really do the Thar, but then it became a brand shaper. It was doing roaring business. People were emotionally getting invested with the Mahindra brand. And then that obviously led to the development of the 2020 Thar. Let's talk about the gestation, the evolution of the new Thar.
I must tell you one more thing before that. We had gone through with the XUV700. Post that, we saw something else being made. IDAM was the R&D center in a way. But after that, Mahindra Engineering Valley came into being in Chennai. That was an integrated research and development department for the company. One of India's finest such after Telco's ERC. Mahindra Research Valley was responsible for not just fully built vehicles, but also it did enough and more work on aggregates, on production engineering, just to think about how to do a new assembly line which could take in 2 or 3 different models at the same time. The Mahindra Chakan works was getting ready. That was another thing. So you have to not just take into account what had to happen after the first generation Thar, but you have to also see that if you had to do a follow-up to any of the existing products, be it the XUV700 or the Scorpio or the next generation Thar, there had to be everyone on board from all departments. So MRV played a big role in understanding the requirements for an XUV customer is different, requirement for a Scorpio guy is different, and the requirement for a very sporty urban 4x4 is different. So you had many people who you could give the same aggregates, but then they had to be mastered differently in their application. And so where the first generation Thar was a typical skunkworks thing of an enthusiast in his spare time had come up with a wondrous product, you needed to do much more than that to follow it up so that it became an even better success than the original. So in that in mind, finally by that time, everyone within the company knew that the Thar had it in it to really spawn a very different line of action from the company. Failure will have just one father who will become a scapegoat. But if it's a success, you suddenly find many people ascribing to it. This time around, everyone thought, let's be fathers jointly. And that's how the second generation Thar really got going. You had, for the first time ever, you had people who thought, let's think power. Let's think performance. Let's think handling. Let's think presence. Let's think creature comforts. Let's think about everything.
Let's think safety.
Yeah, everything. So safety, very, very big thing. And they thought about, let's not shun petrol. So by that time, MRV had invested itself in making a swathe of engines, petrol, diesel, whatever. That investment was such a crucial thing at that time. Mahindra is reaping the benefits of that line of thought till today. And it will go on because I remember you in the last podcast saying that Mahindra's put all its eggs in the EV basket. No, it put all its eggs in getting a whole range of ICE engines ready. and still having the wherewithal to do an EV thing. I'm telling you, EVs is not all it's made out to be. For the next 25, 30 years, you'll still have internal combustion stuff. And Mahindra has ensured its existence with internal combustion for the next 15, 20 years.
So we'll talk about EVs towards the end.
Yes.
You're talking about MRV, Mahindra Research Valley in Chennai.
Yeah.
That must have been a terrific investment
Of
for
course.
Mahindra.
It was, money is not the thing. They got they had the money. They were cash rich in that sort of sense. The board didn't hesitate when Pawan Goenka made a representation, say we want another 1,000 crores to set up MRV, because the earlier Scorpio project, 600 crores, had helped them, give them a lot of benefits, including XUV700 and whatnot, and the first generation Thar. And so there was no problem about that was done, and they had got good people who went out and one of those guys, today you know him as Veluswamy, one of the unsung heroes from that time, who was such a pragmatic approach, and he has got that knack of not just great cutting edge technologies and ability to see things beyond just what is there, but what it can do further. His bent of philosophy, history, etc., and making it all happen together. You need people with such rounded personalities who could, leave their imprint even on the, most critical of people or naysayers. So you got these sort of people, and like I told you, people are charged in within Mahindra. They want to come to work on a Sunday. So that really helped with, and MRV did it on such a way. Think about it. No one had a great test track of their own. Tata's had a small test track here and whatnot. But Tata's never needed to go because they had VRD close by. So even though we had Nat tracks there in Indore, but Mahindra thought it fit that we needed a test track close to our R&D center, where we could test day in, day out, 24 hours a day, etc. And when they had got, it's one of the finest proving grounds in the world.
Yeah, the Mahindra SUV proving track,
So
MSPT.
what I'm saying is, this is logical for a car maker, a serious car maker, who is in it for the long haul and is doing it everything by the book and also setting new benchmarks towards doing it. You know?
So the 2020 Thar, we tend to forget because memories are short. But when the 2020 Thar came out, that was the first of its like, with a petrol engine, an automatic transmission with creature comforts, no leaf springs at the rear. It was a Thar that you could use as a daily driver. Okay, today now when you compare it to the Thar Roxx, you say the 3-door Thar is bouncy and jumpy and everything.
No.
But in 2020, that was a sea change.
No, but Sirish, the 5-door Thar and the 3-door Thar are two different animals. So you cannot, compare the two. For a lifestyle, go anywhere SUV, the 3-door Thar still rocks. Whereas the 5-door Thar is a great family vehicle. Let's not look at it through the prism of being a Jeep-styled vehicle. But it's a Jeep-styled vehicle which will have everyone else on the run as a family vehicle. When the Scorpio was first released, the first year, they had a line, nothing else will do. Rajesh Jejurikar had coined that line. I think the Thar Roxx, in this category where Creta, Elevate, ABC, XYZ and whatnot, nothing else will do. You know, go to look at the Thar Roxx.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about the Roxx because others, this podcast will also go on for 2 hours. But I'm going to jump in on what you talked about, the Jeep styling. Now, if you look at social media, look at online commentators, the biggest criticism thrown at the Thar and even the Thar Roxx today is about copying Jeep design. Do you subscribe to that?
I don't. For the simple reason, I can understand where those guys are coming from, but they don't have that perspective of thinking beyond that. So that limited knowledge about this, without understanding that Jeep gave up that thing for a long time, whereas these guys kept the Jeep lineage from the second half of the 1940s till today. You can't erase that fact. So at least bring that into the picture, understand that. So they did more to push the Jeep lineage, the original Jeep lineage, which Jeep never did.
Yeah, so first generation Thar to second generation Thar, not one single panel was taken.
Absolutely.
There was no carryover components.
Nothing.
But the design was inspired by the previous generation Thar.
Again, what I'm saying is, yes, the thing is that at least it's not something where you have a what you call SsangYong chairman coming in as a masquerading ditto copy of the Mercedes S-Class. And SsangYong didn't have a what you call legacy of doing that. Whereas Mahindra's had a legacy of doing that.
Yeah.
There are very different approaches. So the perspective has to be understood. Yes, it's an easy thing for armchair critics to what you call say that. And to a certain extent, I don't say that they are wrong. It is, look at it, but you put a latest Jeep Wrangler next to the Thar 3-door and you still see that there are so many differences. Silhouette could be similar, but detailing and turnout is very different. So, like the top coat, you say, is different. You got to look at it in that way and not just say, oh, there are a lot of engineering changes which have happened. It just can't happen without that, you know.
So the Thar, it was done by that time Kripa Nandan was
She did
designing
the styling.
Yes. So she was the head of the styling team.
Yeah.
On hindsight, do you think she could have done something differently?
I think it was, again, you know, the brief which was given to her was to go one up on the original Thar created. The MM540 look. And so they had to modernize that thing. They had to get it very tight, not loose, because you still could find that 1960s look on the MM540, which again, like for a neo-retro sort of a thing, it did its job admirably well. But you had to now do a follow-up to that. So you had to do a follow-up where you got in a lot of modernity, came very close to what is the norm right now. And I remember I was privy to one, presentation which she'd made. She had called me across in the course of doing the book and those things. They had got the Wrangler and the Land Rover Discovery as two examples there. And what they could do to get their vehicle, which would have a form close to both of them, and then take the best bits of their thought process and do it differently, but yet not so different as to disturb onslaught on the mind. So they wanted something still familiar, and in that way they created this thing. A lot of things, the interior was a very big advance over anything. And it is very good to, if you see, you can rake up everything, washing the interior,
Hose it down.
No one had thought about that from an Indian perspective. It was there in the other vehicles. So there's nothing wrong in imbibing them. If you think that you had got C-pillar, tail lights and whatnot, which have been done. So everyone, so if you think Ferrari copies Lamborghini and Lamborghini copies Audi, so you need to get a perspective over there. In fact, we are very emotional people in this country. So we can, fire off our mouths very quickly across. And that's what happened across.
So the 2020 Thar was a dramatic shift for Mahindra. It signaled the new Mahindra. A Mahindra that could engineer good performance engines, good handling, good interiors.
The petrol engine was one of the world's best petrol engines, the 2-liter engine.
And what I love about the fact is that they don't care so much about fuel efficiency,
but
they love power more than fuel economy.
That's exactly what I'm saying is that fuel efficiency is not the end all. You need to have a very efficient engine. Efficiency in performance will give you the efficiency in fuel. If you only dumb it down for fuel efficiency, it will not give you the performance. So you needed an all-round package for that.
And then those powertrains, they proved to be the base for the next vehicle, which was the XUV700.
That it was a killer concept which came in across. So when I was doing the book and I had spent a lot of time at MRV driving the Thar prototypes and I was also seeing the XUV700 there along with the Ford
700 Adil. Everything ends with an O.
So the Ford version was also being engineered at that time and they were supposed to get together and all that. Thank God it never happened because this is something which was very, very right, you know. And let me also tell you one more thing. I too think that Ford would have seen the Thar, second generation Thar, because the Bronco came after it. Just think across over there. No one, they gives a thought process to how, if you look at the Bronco, a lot of the thought process and whatnot are very similar to what the second generation Thar is.
Yeah, so I don't think that's something
Has
anybody
anyone?
has thought
Yeah,
of.
exactly. That's what I said.
But the Bronco could have been inspired by the Thar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole package, it came at the same time.
Yeah.
And these guys were privy to that,
Yeah, so the 700, that unlike the norm, which everybody was using a torsion beam rear suspension, the 700 had independent rear suspension.
You had to go there.
It was an SUV that could do a real 200 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, we
an
proved
Indian
it. Yeah,
SUV. We did the 24-hour endurance run. We proved it. It was safe. It was one of the first of its kind to score full 5 stars in the crash test ratings. It handled well. It had superb interiors, the first with ADAS. And that just shows the level of engineering that went into the vehicle.
One word, Veluswamy. Like how Pawan and Rajesh and Vinay Nakra and all those guys started pushing across, so that let's equip a car with everything which no consumer should be found wanting when you looked at something from, say, Hyundai or Maruti. But suddenly you found that the rest were found wanting, and the Mahindra product was there with everything on it,
So that neatly brings us to the people. We said that we were going to talk about people in this podcast. Let's start with Keshav Mahindra.
Keshav Mahindra, visionary, big visionary. He and his brother J.C. Mahindra, Anand's father, they both were, actually speaking, confidants of GRD Tata. And it was more that they worked with the Indian government there to regulate steel supplies all over the country. Apart from Tata Steel, Tisco, and afterwards, after independence, we had SAIL, Steel Authority of India. Steel was a big requisite for a nation which had to rebuild itself. And in that sort of thing, we had a steel commission and all that, and the government had appointed the Mahindras to do that.
Okay.
And if you see, Tatas knew, they were very good pals. Till today, the relationship between the Tatas and Mahindras at the top level is unbelievable. Keshav was a member on the board of directors of Tatas. So that was the bonhomie there. And they really very principled people, both of them. And they worked one. And his vision, Keshav Mahindra's vision was no wastage, identifying the right people, nurturing them, giving them the wherewithal, letting them do, set targets, do that thing, and work within the legal framework and never transgress into anything. One key aspect of this thing, which I say, of the India we saw after independence till the 90s, was that it was very controlled. Everything was controlled by the government. So much so that every second or third year, the remuneration of a managing director of a company had to be approved not by the shareholders of the company but by the Indian government, which was ridiculous to believe in. So, and on principle, Keshav Mahindra's remuneration, he refused to accept it till the government did not pass the shareholders thing across. So it took almost 10, 12 years. But these were men of integrity at that time. At the same time, when they were denying him that, they also requested him to give one of his best people to be on the planning commission. So Mr. B.R. Sule, who was the president of the company, was sent by Keshav Mahindra on deputation to the Indian government for 2 or 3 years to be the head of the planning commission. So this is the sort of solid, substantially gifted people who Mahindra had. And at the end of the day, I always feel it is people who make everything happen. Everything else is technology, services, all those. It's about your core quality of people. And Mahindra was blessed with that.
Next, Anand Mahindra.
Anand Mahindra studied cinema, studied art. But when he came into Mahindra and Mahindra, and he started from looking at various departments in the company. So he was not suddenly say, boss's nephew, usko dal do top pe. No, he had to earn his stripes. And to be truthful, he did that. And one of the first things which happened in his tenure was there was a strike at the Igatpuri works when the Peugeot engines were being made there. So so one day he just went there, paid a visit, and all the workers were there on the shop floor, playing cards, this, that. He told them, no, this is not done and all that. And he said, I will not move. You either work or you get out. Work or get. He stood his thing, and after about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, the union signed the. He says, I will pay. There was a question of bonus for Diwali. So he says, why are we paying the bonus for Diwali if these guys are not working? So, and he said, it's a matter of principle. You reason with me. The union guys tried to be militant. He says, nothing doing. I will stand over here. You can kill me if you want, but I will not. You reason with me. And that year, they reasoned there was no bonus paid. But next year, he paid them more as a bonus. So you need to set an example. This strength of conviction. I remember Field Marshal Manekshaw saying, you need to have moral courage and you need to have physical courage. Anand showed a lot of moral courage there. I think that's very, very important. And plus, once you earn that respect from this thing, and then he also allowed them to do what he felt was right. He did so many things because at that time there was no R&D, there was no... So you had these special incentives given if someone found a better way of doing an operation and it saved time. So time saved was time, money saved. Incentives would be cash. He did a lot of those things. The people suddenly started saying, yes, this is a youngster who wants this company to succeed. He's got some ideas of his own. Harebrained though they may be, they thought first, but they are working. So that sort of, then plus his induction about new people like Pawan Goenka, so to speak, and then giving him, Pawan Goenka came from General Motors, and he had a fair degree of success there. He learned in that art. So he knew how, the greatest thing which Pawan Goenka got was the learnings from General Motors adapted for Indian circumstances, which General Motors India never did. But Pawan did that thing. And so then, there also, Pawan was really helped by Anand's insistence. He would run everything by Anand what he wanted to do. And Anand would, I think they made a great pair. So in that sort of sense, Anand Mahindra did enough and more. Then he started flying the flag for the company at different forums, different industry organ. He was a great spokesperson. Again, his outlook to life, he was well read. His grasp on history, his grasp on so many different walks of life, it all helped. And you could make out that he's just not there because he's a Mahindra, but because he brings a lot of joy also to the table. Translate directly linked to his name, Anand. So in that sort of sense, you found so many good things happening because of people. And Anand was a great direct descendant of the vision of Keshav. And their relationship till today is unbelievable.
So Anand brought in Pawan, and Pawan ran engineering for Mahindra.
He ran, to be honest with you, it was not just engineering. He ran the product development thing. So product development encompassed everything. Today it's now thin slice. So you got product engineering departments, you had sourcing, you had got assembly, you had got so many different areas. So MRV was also his brainchild. So, and he got Rajan Vadera. No, before that, he had Mr. Bhaumik. Mr. Bhaumik came, he was one of India's greatest engineers. So, Bhaumik and one more guy, they came from Bajaj Auto and they set up MRV. And Bhaumik worked very well with Pawan Goenka. And then after Bhaumik, Bhaumik also, helped Rajan Vadera through that thing. Rajan Vadera got his people to do the latest engines. So there was so many cross-functional stuff within that. The way they learned the art of NVH from Ford. And you can see it in all the new vehicles where the NVH qualities of the Mahindra vehicles is of a different order altogether. So there's so many cross-functional details in all this thing. If you have to really marvel at how an couple of Indian companies have done it. You have to look at these companies here.
Now let's talk about the current leadership team. Let's start with Rajesh Jejurikar.
This is Rajesh's second innings at Mahindra and Mahindra. He was always Anand Mahindra's blue-eyed boy. So after the Scorpios, second generation Scorpios, Advent and all, he left the company and he went to a television company, Z. And I had asked him then, when he returned back after a few years, I said, Rajesh, why did you do that? He says, I had to prove something to myself, and that is the reason why I did. So anyway, Anand knew his capabilities. He knew what was in it. He knew that Pawan was coming to the end of his tenure, and there was a different set of dynamics within the company with an eye on the future. So if you see, they got in Anish to head and to step into Pawan's shoes. Anish is a finance man, whereas Pawan was not a finance man. Pawan was more engineering, product-oriented guy. Plus, he had a great vision as well on that thing. So, way Anand structured that thing was Anish would be the head and he would keep everything in check from a fiscal perspective, while giving all the authorities and the leeway to run the automotive division to people who are passionate about that. I'm not saying that Anish is not passionate, but he's not geared to be in that same sort of a setup where Pawan used to reside and all that. So in that sort of sense, Anand gave Anish the top job over there, and he made Rajesh to spearhead the automotive. So Rajesh heads that business, of course, including tractors and trucks and whatnot. The automotive sector is his baby. Vijay Nakra is one of the finest sales-oriented people any Indian company could aspire to have. Very grounded again, very methodical. He knows what makes it tick in Haryana, so what products could go to Haryana in what number compared to the similar number being, say, in Karnataka. And I think that is very vital. These two guys make a great team. Then you also had other people in the dispensation and service and whatnot. Plus, again, irrevocably we come back to MRV. MRV is the mother lode for all offspring of the company. And Velu Swami is a great foster father. And
Velu's enthusiasm is unparalleled.
You have to be infectious. And no, you have to. That is what it has to transcend from yourself to your colleagues all across the range, and also to the guys on top. Because many a time, guys on top don't. And I used to tell Rajesh many a time, Rajesh, I have not seen you smile. Don't be so serious. I think Velu Swami is a good foil to Rajesh in that sort of sense.
And his presentations are like college lectures.
I'm telling you, yes.
The amount of detail into it, no other manufacturer gives that.
Not just that. The lecture doesn't make the students sleep.
Yes, yeah.
That is key,
Yeah.
And more important than that, Ajay Saran Sharma and Pratap Bose joined Mahindra and Mahindra from Tata Motors Design. And everyone knows Pratap Bose to have the gift of the gab. Velu Swami has put him in the shade there, in that aspect of things.
But we should also quickly talk about Pratap. He heads design at Mahindra. What do you think about his capabilities?
Very high profile, a person in a very high profile on Tata Motors design was Pratap. But let's not decry what Ajay Saran Sharma used to do. So those two, so Ajay Saran Sharma was the man who had taken the back seat. He was the guy who would be engineering the product design from a production perspective. The styling and whatnot would be Pratap's thing. So Pratap's thing would be translated, and Ajay Saran Sharma, if you don't know it, he was the guy who won our Delphi design competition at Overdrive. We had said style of vehicle for 2020 in 2002. So Ajay was the winner of our. So both of them here again, they have proven what they have done at Tata Motors. Tata Motors used design as a big tool to sell their vehicles to customers, and I think the same thing is being. The one chink in Mahindra's armor was good automotive design. Well, the first examples are just rolling in. So I think the next examples, unfortunately, they are EVs, would be the ones which already have come to some good acclaim in certain areas. Design should be such that if it is insipid and it's like that, what do you call, typical Japanese-oriented stuff, you can't expand on that. But if you have got something striking, it should be great enough for people to discuss it.
And everybody's talking about the Thar Roxx.
No, so I'm not going there. Thar Roxx is great, but I'm talking about, again, like I said, it was logical the way the 5-door happened from the 3-door. So I would like to see the real manifestation of Mahindra design from these guys. And we saw that one version which we saw, that electric vehicle.
The Thar E.
No, the Thar E, was it at Hyderabad during the Formula E thing, where they're the rally?
Yes, that was the BE
or
whatever.
So that is something I want to see someone be bold enough to say, okay, let's do it. And I think that is a thought process already within the corridors of power there in Mahindra Towers. So I think if we do that, I think that will be something to look forward to.
We've briefly talked about Mahindra and Tata. These are the two big giants in the Indian automotive space. The only two Indian giants.
Companies.
How similar or dissimilar are they in terms of the culture, in terms of the philosophy?
Culture is very different. I said, not many people in telco Tata Motors want to go to work on a Sunday. So that, I think that statement should say it all. It's changing, but it's not changing quick enough.
And do you see any parallels between the two?
Yeah, both of them are very strong in trying to further be the only bulwarks against the multinationals. They have, both of them decided that they had to go safety engineering as one of their talking points. So the safety aspect, they have set the pace, and the others are still trying to catch up. They have, broken the mold on what everyone else was doing. They want to do it their way, which is wonderful. And I think there's nothing wrong in that. My only worry for both of them is, don't let costs go out of hand. And also put in place some things where, like you said, Mahindra's put everything in its EV basket. No, I don't think Mahindra's put everything in its EV. Rather, Tata has gone and put everything in its EV basket. There are no petrol engines or diesel engines like Mahindra has got. They took their eyes off the ball there. So Tatas need to get into, because ICE, like I said, they all thought ICE is history. No, ICE is not history.
So now let's come to something that I'm interested to listen to your thoughts on. Mahindra's partnerships. And they've had partnerships across the board with lots of people. Some have worked, some haven't worked. In the last podcast, we talked about Mahindra and Ford. The second partnership with Mahindra and Ford was going to realize a whole bunch of Ford vehicles that were going to be co-branded with Mahindra. The XUV700 with a Ford top hat.
Yes.
What happened? Why did it not progress?
I think that Ford could not get to grips with the price points of the XUV700, which Mahindra wanted to sell at. And if you see the Endeavour before that, they had got, the price point was very different. Again, there was almost matching the Fortuner.
Yes.
And see where the Fortuner is gone today, almost 50 lakhs. 50 lakhs for a tin pot on 4 wheels. You need to have the Toyota name, yes, but Toyota name not at a 20 lakh rupee premium on that, So
you are saying that the Ford couldn't fathom how aggressively the 700 was going to be priced?
Yes, not just that alone, and they wanted to do it with everything which Mahindra, in a certain manner, they did not want Mahindra also to do go full bells and whistles with the XUV700. So that, but then they found, what is the virtue of having Ford as a partner? Mahindra asked across, and they did that internal thing. Plus, they had to put in. Ford was not going anywhere, to be honest. Ford needed Mahindra as the crutch. That crutch would have cost Mahindra more money than Ford.
Why is that?
Because they would have done most of the engineering work was done by Mahindra any which way. So the Ford engine would come in at the most across over there, and the Ford trinkets on the exterior and whatnot. But much of the work was already a Mahindra speciality, which was already done. I'd seen those vehicles when I was doing the book. I'd seen those vehicles at MRV and whatnot.
I believe the Ford top hat on the 700 was actually designed by Pininfarina.
Not necessarily so. They had given a lot of cues, which was actually speaking for the XUV700. The Pininfarina, see, there were three, for the XUV700, there were three design studies done. One by Mahindra India Design Studio Mids in Bombay, one by Pininfarina, and one by the team they were setting up in England.
Okay.
The England team was not set up till there. So, by and large, it was just these two. And I think at that time, Pininfarina won the award for the interior of the Marazzo. It was very, very good. And a lot of the things which they wanted to do on the 700 was, again, something which was very close to what MIDS had done. But more important than that, Pininfarina was asking a very big price for the design. And this was already amortized here. And anyway, the XUV700, the design is not anything where you can fault it for. It's very much contemporary. So it worked very well. So for Ford really needed Mahindra more than Mahindra needed Ford. At a later date, Ford could have been their big rivals. So why get into bed with your rival?
Who called it quits?
I think it was joint. Mahindra Pawan told me, and Rajesh also told me that we had serious talks with Ford on this thing, and there was no way we could have gone forward with that. And if you care to think about it, forget about the dynamics between Ford and Mahindra. What else is Ford doing elsewhere in the world? What is it doing? Ford in Europe? What is it doing? Ford in the USA? Just don't know. So, in the essence of the thing, the vibrant market which is there in India, you needed to be grounded and invested here well. I don't think Ford was either grounded or it wanted to be invested well. And invested well in thought. It could have had the money, but it was not so that way.
The next partnership is Mahindra and Renault. That resulted in the Logan. The Logan was a roaring success everywhere in the world except for India. The Logan was also, I think, the first sedan, the first car that Mahindra made.
Yes.
What went wrong with that partnership?
Nothing went wrong. They put it as a pricey sedan in the minds of consumers. And honestly speaking, having seen the Toyota Etios there and the familiarity with the Logan, sedan buyers are a different breed of people. They didn't know that the Dacia overseas was a cheap, cost-competitive saloon. Here you had the cheap, cost-competitive saloon becoming a prestige saloon. Those things didn't match up. And honestly speaking, in that sort of sense, Mahindra's own sales network or sales force was ill-equipped to sell a sedan. I think so. That is the closest I can get to thinking like that.
They couldn't
Plus also the management vision of both companies, Renault and Mahindra, I think they never worked at a unified approach to the game.
But there was no way they could have revived the project.
I don't know. I really don't. But in a way, I think, to think about it, Mahindra got what it wanted to learn from Renault on this front. And I think Renault got what it needed to learn about the Indian way of life from that. So I think that
is a win-win for the partners.
I think in that sort of sense, that could be the best case scenario for the two.
But Mahindra could never make a car work for them. Afterwards, they got the rights to the Logan. They made the Verito,
but
sub-4 meter.
But what happened? The IP still belonged to Renault. That is what both Rajesh and Pawan had told me. Okay, whatever we did on that, it had to pass muster by Renault, even though that. So the IP was always belonging to Renault.
They tried the KUV, they tried the TUV.
I don't know why they did it. To be honest, I really... And then there was another monstrosity, the Quanto. They didn't need to do these things here. They didn't need to do these things.
So that was Mahindra and Renault. Then Mahindra and SsangYong. They bought SsangYong, the South Korean manufacturer.
I think that was a knee-jerk reaction to Tata Motors buying Jaguar Land Rover.
Okay.
Mahindra were interested in Land Rover. They were not interested in Jaguar. And at that point in time, Mahindra didn't have that steel in them. They were very risk averse. They had just got something going with the Scorpio and the XUV500. So they were in a great space, but they were hesitant. MRV was in the pipeline. So they were very hesitant of putting in about that 1.6 to 1.8 million billion whatever for Tata's paid for it. They only wanted Land Rovers, but Ford only wanted to sell both of them as an integrated package. At that point in time when that didn't happen, so the knee-jerk reaction was SsangYong was a very cheap buy on the market. So they got that thing. But SsangYong didn't have anything intrinsic within.
Why did they buy SsangYong? What did they see in SsangYong?
I don't know. I really don't know. But it was a good thing to have another brand in their portfolio. And they thought the gravitas from a multinational brand and whatnot. But it was the lowest of low-rung automotive brands in the Korean pecking order. But they got it, and they used to have some Jeep inspired vehicles like the Corando and whatnot. They thought they could make use of that.
They did bring the Rexton to India.
They did that thing, but again, like I said, SsangYong had no brand appeal in the minds of Indian customers. To establish SsangYong itself, just to spell it out and pronounce it was a core, But the biggest thing which I think Mahindra really missed out on was Saab. Saab was available. GM didn't want to do it. It had cutting edge tech, everything. But some people in Mahindra and Mahindra didn't even know what was Saab. Teams had gone there, they looked at it. The guys who knew were all in praise, but they were overlooked because they said, what is Saab? We'll have a wrong connotation in the minds of people colloquially. So, but Saab was one big ticket which was available to them at a very, very good price, much better than SsangYong. That's what the word on the street over there from Mahindra is concerned. But they just didn't take that.
So Saab was a missed opportunity.
Big missed opportunity.
Even with SsangYong, to get out of it must have cost a lot of money to Mahindra.
Should
right?
have, would have.
So the only real remnant
the key thing which happened was SsangYong was very much dependent on Mahindra to prop itself up. So there was not a meeting. And one more thing, the Korean workforce, the unions there are very militant, very, very militant. So whatever you could do is they would not agree to everything. The union had to be party to a lot of policies, framework, etc. It became tedious across over there.
So the only real remnant of SsangYong that we see right now in India is the 3XO, which was the 300, which came in from the Tivoli. But otherwise, did Mahindra learn anything from SsangYong? Did they get technology?
I don't think so.
Expertise?
I don't think so. They got a platform at the most. Apart from that, I don't think so.
And finally, there was talk of Mahindra buying Aston Martin. Was there any substance to that?
This was pie in the sky stuff here. It can't be. And if that had happened, Aston would have gone down under before Mahindra bought it.
So that's the past. Today, there is all this rumors of Mahindra looking at buying a stake in Volkswagen's Indian operations. Is there any substance to that?
No, let us say, let's keep Mahindra out of the... It shows very poorly on Volkswagen themselves. The question is the amount of money they have spent in speaking out loudly about themselves without showing anything consummate with all what they have spent out on the roads is a dismal reflection on how Volkswagen have gone about their journey in India so far. And be it whatever, you may be the world's richest country, world's richest company, world's richest philanthropist of the thing. There is a limit to how long you can keep on dipping into your wallet. And I think Volkswagen India has reached that stage where the flow has been shut off.
The pipeline,
Yes.
the pipeline is crimping.
Yes.
So Mahindra, now they are present all over the world. They are a big export powerhouse. But their most iconic product is not being exported. I'm talking about the Thar. Why is that?
Yeah, I think many a time it has not been well enumerated to people there whosoever have got the litigation going against them to FCA and how do you make the people who is going to adjudge your case in law over there. I don't think that much has been done on that front. So you can't be defensive all your life. There has to be something and someone has to work on that. And there are ways and means. I still feel it's not anything to go by. You can deal directly with FCA and say there have been instances of so many things which have happened, and I think the Thar 5-door and the equivalent Jeep product, you got to again place them side by side. Okay, they look the same, but Mitsubishi also used to make Jeeps like that for a long time. So if they are thinking that Mahindra should do a Pajero sort of departure and not do this, I think that's a bit of a disconnect. So you need to get that thing out of the way first.
Because whatever they're exporting, like the Scorpio N, for instance, that has got rave reviews in Australia, in South
absolutely,
Africa.
Absolutely. It's a stunner here. It's
and
a stunner.
The Thar 5-door, especially the Roxx, that could be like a huge volume play to export all over the world.
I'm telling you, the Thar Roxx, we keep on coming back to it, is a product which is got so much of smart thought that if it works in the Indian environment, it can work anywhere. And it's got it all sussed out properly.
So I wanted to ask you, Thar Roxx, the name, do you subscribe to this whole thing that's going on that it should have been named the Armada?
No, I don't think so. I'm happy.
Why not?
I'm happy that we are not gone to the Armada.
Why?
So we'll keep something else for a more powerful vehicle coming in. But Thar Roxx is great.
Yeah.
Okay, what I'm saying, if I had seen it without or not knowing about the Thar before and Thar Roxx, I don't think it really does anything for me.
The name.
Yeah. But then when you see that thing in actual, and I've been using it now for the better part of a week after that. So I think, yes. So name is only incidental. The name is not going to sell. The product is going to sell.
Yeah, well, in India, if a Laura could sell, I think any name can sell, right? The product needs to be okay.
But there also Skoda was lucky. There was nothing else. So it was lucky.
Yeah.
So just think about it. If they were so good, there would have been a follow-up Laura, but it never happened. So they know there are only these limits which it can go to and not beyond. Whereas here, it's a world of infinite possibilities for these cars here.
And finally, we have to talk about the future. But one partnership that I did not talk about, Adil, was Mahindra and Reva. Now, Reva was the pioneer of electrification in India. And with the acquisition, Mahindra obviously got a lot of technology. They also got one of the first mover advantages in that EV space, which they didn't really capitalize on.
No, let's not say that they got a lot of technology. They got a good startup platform. Electric cars in those early days were basically very different animals to what we have today. So many use that as a good means to step up from its golf carts to doing cars for the road. They had the things going. They had good people who really knew the subject. They also did a new car with DC design stuff and whatnot.
The E2O also a product of that.
Yeah. So whatever they did though, but was again that typical Mickey Mouse sort of styling from the Reva to the E2O and all. Still not a mainstream car. So the biggest takeaway for Mahindra was Miney's help to them in thinking electric for the future. And Formula E was one of the key things, biggest takeaways from there. Mahindra being one of the founder teams in Formula E World Championship. To this day, they are there. But from there, they needed to what you call harness that thing to replace or give an alternative to the internal combustion engine cars. So when you're looking at a completely different propellant, so what they needed to do with electric as a fuel, that is where I think their new partnership with Volkswagen will what you call help them. But it's not just that. What they're doing with Volkswagen also is cutting down on time to develop a platform. The Volkswagen architecture is there. It is scalable in any which way, and today everyone has understood how to do it. So basically, I still feel Mahindra will understand that approach and they will do a platform of their own on that architecture with a lot of changes to suit Mahindra and the Indian way of doing things rather than just buy it out every time from Volkswagen.
So is the future for Mahindra electric?
No, not just electric. I think it has to be all encompassing. They cannot shun ICE, and I don't think that they will shun, because their investments in the IC engines, with the range of engines they've got, doesn't ever make. I think it's the biggest open secret in the world, which not everyone is acknowledging. Mahindra has already made sure of their existence there. IC is where they are giving a larger thrust, which is visible. But they have already safeguarded their interest in IC engines.
If you look at it today, now everybody's talking about hybrid. And eventually, I think the government will also have the GST rebates for hybrids.
Which I think
Mahindra
again,
does not have hybrids.
But which I think again, that's a different ball game altogether. It is more political than technological. Maruti knows how to play that role. It has played that role to the disdain of the rest of the industry right since its existence. And this, they are doing it again and ramrodding it through with Toyota. I don't think that anything like that. You are already disincentivizing electrics. You are already disincentivizing IC. There's such a lot of work which has gone. You have to drive a 2-liter Mahindra vehicle and you drive a 2-liter BMW, or rather to drive a 2-liter Mercedes with. See, there's nothing lacking in the Mahindra engine.
True.
It's a big statement which not many fathom, but it's a fact. It's a fact. So why penalize our guys here?
Yeah, but then with the CO2 emission norms.
No, but you're still going to get through.
Okay.
What Mahindra needs more than that is to make a small sub 4 meter SUV, which they don't have. The KUV, TUV,
But the 3XO?
I still feel the 3XO is not there. You need something.
To be fair, I am not a fan of the 3XO styling, but people are buying the 3XO.
Yes,
the 3XO
my son-in-law has it.
And the 3XO are actually doing good numbers.
Yes.
Mahindra's ambition with the Thar, which they announced when they did the Thar Roxx, was that they want the Thar to be the number one SUV brand in the above 12.5 lakh category. So they want the Thar Roxx to take on the Creta head-on, because the Creta is obviously the number one SUV in that segment. So Mahindra are now looking at tackling these mid-size monocoque SUVs using their heritage.
I'll tell you one thing. Some years ago, in a discussion with all the Mahindra executive top brass and all that, they said that one thing is there. At that point in time, the Creta and all, Hyundai was propped up, or even Maruti was propped up by the lot of cars surrounding the Brezza and the Creta. Those numbers used to come from there. Today, the whole world is slowly moving towards the SUV form factor. So that is where, in this sort of a sense, all those cars are front-wheel drive cars. Mahindra at least is a rear-wheel drive car. It's a it makes a big difference, mind you. Let me tell you that. And I've never stopped short of selling that important ingredient to what really makes an SUV tick. Mahindra stays still true to form. The others, for them to take a step away from front-wheel drive and do that, I think it takes a lot of courage, and they say, why should we do it? But they don't understand. India is the third largest car market in the world.
Yes.
It just could become the second largest car market in the world. Then they will not be what you call having that approach. Then they will start that knee-jerk reaction to get.
And when you think of it, Mahindra is probably at the forefront in the world for body-on-frame construction.
Because everyone gave away that thing.
True, but Mahindra are doing new body-on-frame vehicles. And with the Thar Roxx, it's not a long wheelbase 3-door Thar. It is a whole new chassis. Which, if you're investing so much in a whole new chassis, this is not going to be the first and the last.
No.
They're going to have other models.
They understand their heritage. They understand their legacy. They understand their strengths. They understand that no one has that wealth of experience and knowledge, domain knowledge of in that area. They may have. They'll dig it out. But the head start which these guys have got, and they will spawn. I still feel, looking at the thing, Mahindra has got this thing done very well. But over the next few, there will be a small Fiat-based Jeep, small SUV coming through. Mahindra has to be ready for that. It has to be ready for that. That is critical. They are doing, electrics is an open field for everyone. So I don't think Mahindra is placed very weak or anything that way. Mahindra starters are starting probably the same time across over there. So where you need to go, you need to address that aspect of the market. And you need a small SUV. You need a better Jimny than Jimny itself.
A better Jimny.
Better Jimny than a Jimny itself.
So what Mahindra now needs to work on, they probably are working on it.
Yeah,
also.
they are already.
Who knows?
Yes.
But a better Jimny than the Jimny.
Absolutely. Mark my words, copyrighted right now. We told you so 2 years before it.
So we'll keep that in mind, Adil. Thank you for sharing your insights and your wealth of knowledge on this podcast on everything that you want to know about Mahindra. And of course, if you guys have any more questions, drop it in the comments and we will get the Evo team to answer that. Thank you for watching and listening. Adil, thank you for being on the podcast.
Wonderful to be here again.
And look forward to doing another in-depth podcast on another manufacturer very soon.
Let's do the thing on the motorcycles now.
On motorcycles. Done. Let's do that.
Okay.
Thank you.